I used to find myself working so hard out in the garden, but over time, I found many different ways to make my life out here much easier. If you're part of the Dirty Fingernail gang, you know that we love getting our hands dirty and like putting in the hard work, but sometimes we also like making it easier on ourselves.
While we do love getting our fingernails dirty sometimes, a new way of doing things can really help you out with time and your efforts in the garden. Over the years, I have picked up some new systems, new philosophies, and new ways of doing things that have saved me a bunch of time and definitely a bunch of sweat.
After all, less time spent weeding means more time for planning, planting, and harvesting. The fun things out there. Now you must think that I'm thinking about putting things on autopilot or auto mode, something simple. But I tell you what, there are certain things in the garden that you just gotta get down and get those fingernails dirty.
A garden can never be put on auto mode or autopilot. You can, however, front load your efforts. By doing tasks ahead of time, you can eliminate tasks later. One of my favorite tasks to do to front load and eliminate tasks is to mulch pathways. I do this with a deep mulch of wood chips in the early spring if I can. I try to do this when it's cool outside and I have the excitement of a new garden upon me. I do this to prevent weeds from popping up, to retain moisture in the soil, and to cool off my beds. Also, it attracts worms and beneficial soil microbes that come and help feed my comfrey.
And speaking of comfrey, that is another front-loaded task. I usually take this stuff and I let it grow up and I chop it, I drop it all over my beds. And by doing that, I retain moisture in my beds. I provide my beds with some nutrients as this stuff breaks down. And I also prevent weeds from coming up. Now I typically do this on a day when things are much cooler out. So that way I don't have to worry about braving the heat, breaking that much of a sweat where I have to change shirts 5 times a day. So I'll get out here on a nice day, cover my beds, get them all covered with the comfrey mulch. And besides, covering these also make the beds a lot cooler.
Another thing I try to do to keep things easy is put up some trellises and grow vertical wherever I can. This makes harvesting so much easier. Things are usually at eye level and away from pests, away from diseases. Here, I treat less plants and I bend over a whole lot less.
So I look at all these tasks and I think of them as investment, time investments. The time I spent now doing these is time I will save in the future. Time that'll be befriended for me whenever I have the heat and humidity of the summer that I don't want to be out in. Time that all will save while I'm feeling up to doing the task. Trust me, it's well worth it. Now, with the front loading of some of these tasks, let's face it, I've eliminated some things. One of the major things that I eliminated was tilling my garden. I have not tilled this garden in probably 12 years. How awesome is that?
That's right, folks. By growing in raised beds and all the mulching I do, I no longer have to do any tilling. The pathways and beds keep weed free for the most part.
Well, let's face it, that was a lie. There are no weed free around here. Look at these guys.
But it does make pulling the weeds a lot easier. By implementing no-till, the soil stays light and fluffy, thus making pulling out a weed very easy. If I were to till things, I would have hard and compacted soils, making it very hard to get the weeds out by the roots.
When we disturb the soil, over time we compact it, we tear up the mycorrhizal and fungi networks that are underneath, not to mention we bring up weed seeds for future weeds to pop up through the soil, something that we don't want to do.
By leaving the soil undisturbed, I have thousands of earthworms thriving in my soil. They are so busy down there breaking down plant material, pooping out that plant material, or fertilizing if you want to call it that. My soil is nice and aerated with all their little raceways. These little worms are fantastic and I love having them in my garden beds.
So tell me, be one of the Dirty Fingernail gang members. Leave me a comment down below. Do you guys till your gardens? Are you a no-till like me? How do you like to do it? I'm not saying there's a wrong way or right way. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on no-till. Another plant that I rely on in the garden is perennials. All these trees here, nice little crabapple. But planting perennials is another power plan that you can come up with. Plant once, harvest forever.
Perennials are the ultimate cheat code. I have apple trees, crabapple tree, peach trees, strawberries that come back each year, blueberries, blackberries, grapes, cold hardy kiwis, and I even planted some new cherry trees this year. All of this was planted once, and I reap the rewards from year to year with very, very little effort.
Oh, and did I mention earlier that I grow comfrey? This is a powerhouse plant in my garden. This guy has a long dynamic taproot that goes down way below the roots of any vegetable that I can plant. And it digs up the nutrients. And those nutrients all get into these leaves. I take these leaves, I cut them up and chop them and drop them all across my garden, and they become nutrients for the plants. It's amazing how that cycle goes around. I chop and drop the nutrients there, the nutrients go into my plants, and those plants, I eat them and get the nutrients right back out of them. This plant as well will grow quickly. I will get like 5, 6 cuttings of this guy every year. It's a great plant. I highly suggest you get one in your garden.
As a matter of fact, I chop and drop more than just comfrey. A lot of the times I will chop and drop weeds and old vegetables in the garden. By doing this, you are taking what the plant has taken out of the soil and partially putting it back into the soil.
With the weeds that have the seed heads on them, like this guy, I'll take and I'll remove them from the garden. Actually, I throw them in my lawn and I just mulch them up with my mower. Whole point is not to spread the weed seeds around. Now, plants that I have in the garden that I grew, the vegetable seeds, I will take those up if they are diseased, and I'll do the same thing. I'll mow them into my garden or into my lawn. I don't want to have those diseases spreading. However, if I got a healthy plant that I knew that was good, I will take it and I'll pick it up, chop it and drop it right into my beds. Now, that's not to say there might be some of those vegetable seeds on there next year, but that brings me to the next lovely chapter of this video, which is volunteers.
These little surprises are happy little accidents. I call these volunteers. These volunteers pop up all over the garden. Sometimes I leave them, sometimes I replant them, sometimes I take them out. But here are some of the happy little volunteers in my garden. The first one are volunteer tomatoes. Resilient, disease-resistant, rogue tomato plants that can outperform the ones that I started in my basement. Next are Cannas and Rudbeckia. These are stunning, low-maintenance, reoccurring foliage and blooms that have anchored in my bed perimeters. I also have a bunch of chamomile that comes up in the early spring, and this year I had a bunch of sunflowers. These are all self-sown flowers that draw beneficial insects effortlessly, and they as well attract birds that do some insect control in my garden as well. So you might ask, why do I love and want to keep these volunteers in my garden? One, they're free. They didn't cost me a single dime. They're all left over from last year's seeds. And number two, they're greatly adapted to my garden. These seeds have survived a whole year last year. These plants were thriving enough to produce seeds. They drop those seeds. Those seeds are genetically modified to be suitable for growing in my garden. I mean, after all, they did come up on their own, didn't they? These seeds are usually superior and they perform very well in my garden. You really can't have an autopilot garden without a solid crew to run it. And honestly, my favorite part of this whole no-till, all these systems that I do, is the free labor I get from the wildlife that has automatically moved in to help. Take these Rudbeckia, for example. They aren't just here to look good. These blooms act like a beacon, bringing in hoverflies, lacewings, ladybugs, and native bees. While the bees are busily handling the crop pollination, those beneficial insects are going to town consuming the aphids. It's built-in pest control that I don't even have to worry about paying for. It doesn't cost me a dime or require any extra effort from me. Then there's the night crew. because we keep that thick layer of mulch down and the ground stays cool, sheltered, and damp. This creates the absolute perfect habitat for toads and frogs. They provide 24/7 slug and insect management. I don't even need to reach for chemical sprays because these are nocturnal amphibians that are out there doing their heavy lifting while I'm basically sleeping. Finally, you have to let the birds do their things. By embracing a garden that works with nature, backyard birds are naturally drawn in to forage for seeds. While they're hunting for a snack, they're also snatching up a massive amount of insects through natural predation, keeping the entire garden's ecosystem in a perfect, healthy balance.
So you can see, as I've done a lot of things in my garden that are much different than the way I used to do things. I've learned a lot off the internet, off the YouTube, off this great gardening community that we have around here. Speaking of gardening community, if you like this video, click that thumbs up. Make sure you leave me a comment to say hello down below. The community is open. Let's have a conversation. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. But if you like what we're doing here, want to learn more of my systems and my plans, I bet there's going to be a good video right up here. Cheers, everybody. God bless. Keep those fingernails dirty.